Hi, welcome to Astrology for Gann Traders. My name is Olga Morales. Now today I'm going to be looking at the Capricorn Solstice for this year. But before I commence, I want to have a look back at a previous solstice report I did, which was actually in 2017, well before we knew anything about COVID and the pandemic. And I just want to recap that because it was really important when we look back. And I'll put it in the link after I finish this video if you haven't watched it. Anyway, what happened was in 2017, at that particular ingress, Saturn was going to be conjunct the Sun, okay? And I wanted to look back. Someone asked me, Olga, when was another time when Saturn was exactly conjunct the Sun for the ingress chart, the Capricorn ingress, the solstice? So I had to look back. And when I looked back, I actually found that it was in 1664, which was basically just before the time when the Bubonic Plague started in London. And it was just like, I was so excited. Well, at the time I was, okay. So we didn't know anything about COVID yet. So I just did a whole lot of research on it. And you can see this is the actual chart for the Capricorn ingress set for London, okay, in 1664. And you can see a whole lot of planets in Capricorn and also in Aquarius, okay? I've just highlighted Mars, Neptune, because Mars and Neptune, according to Epitome, is the disease epidemic signature or combination. I've added a couple of things that I didn't do in the that particular video, just adding some of the fixed stars as well, because there are two fixed stars which are connected to contagious diseases and pestilence. One of them, and they're both in the sign of Scorpio. One is Acrab in the head of the Scorpion, and the declination is south, so it's minus 19.48. And the other one is Antares in the heart of the Scorpion, which is the declination is minus 26.26. Okay, so I've included them in these charts, in my charts. Okay, AC is Acrab, and the little star, which I've made a mistake, I haven't put a word in there, letter in there. Is actually Antares, okay? This is set when it was in 1664. They've moved on from that because of precession, okay? Now, each fixed star has a combination of influences that was given to them anciently. And Acrab, which is one we're focusing on more, is connected with a Mars-Saturn influence, okay? And they also are given a card, a major arcana card out of the tarot. And it's interesting that the card associated with this fixed sign star is the Tower. Now, if we look at the picture of the Tower, you can see the tower, but it's interesting that there's fire in that tower, because if you know in your history, I'm sure you do, after the Bubonic Plague in London, the only thing that really stopped the spread of it, because it killed so many people, was the Great Fire of London, and that was in 1666, okay? And it's interesting that this card actually has people, the burning tower. So everything, and when you bring all this, imagery together and the symbolism, it's just amazing. So let's keep going through some of these slides. You know that I always look at declination when it comes to mundane cycles. And what I've done here, I've actually plotted Acrab. So there's the A. Okay, it's about 19 degrees south. Okay, this is southern declination, northern declination. This is our equator at 0. And then we've got Antares here, just about 26 degrees here. That's the other black line. And you can see the line, the planets going through declination on this chart, okay? This is for 1664. But remembering that the analysis was for the Capricorn ingress, which is at this point, okay? You can see the sun stands still for 3 days, okay? The solstice means standing still, and Jesus was in his cave for 3 days, and he was 3 days, a lot of initiations of in the mystery school spent 3 days and 3 nights in a cave, and it was part of the initiation rites, but it's all to do with the solar imagery of the sun, okay? And then you're born again, because then it starts going south again, north again, and we go up again, okay? So this is, you can see all the clustering of all these planets. I remember they were all in Capricorn and Aquarius. They're all southern declination, cold signs. And so we have this, and you can see Mars going through the Antares, not Antares down here, but Acrab later on in the next year, okay? But when you put this chart, that ingress chart for 1664 on the solar maps, you can just see the clustering of all those planets in Capricorn and Aquarius. Of course they're going to focus on a particular part of the world. And you can see the exact Sun-Saturn conjunction goes right through London, okay, and even Paris and parts of Europe, and you can see all of that. The other thing I mentioned in the video was that it also was going through China, and that was the apparently the origin of the Bubonic Plague, because it was fleas that was somehow shipped on boats with trade, and it went over to London. Okay, isn't it interesting that in the video I said, well, it's interesting that it was coming from China, and sort of that we've got that repetition of things happening. So let's have a look at the ingress chart for 2017. You can see this is what started my research, and why I did that video. We can see the Sun was conjunct Saturn at that time, and I said this is like 1664. And the also thing I want to point out is a lot of these times in these ingress charts, we have an aspect between Mars and Neptune. And as I said with Epitem, that has to do with diseases and infections and epidemics. So it's interesting that they're in a specific aspect for all these ingress charts, okay? So this is 2017. You can see that we've got planets like Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn, so they're in southern declination, and they're coming together strong along here, okay? And also I've just plotted here, it was interesting that in 2017 that Sun-Saturn conjunction was actually going on the IC going through China. Okay, so in 1664 it was rising through China, and it was culminating through London, or on the IC in London, and this has moved across. So this is how, you know, the more of this research you do, you can see the patterns of these ingresses. But, you know, it's good for me to show you some of this. So if you want to experiment with your solar maps, I mean, if you've got solar fire, you can do amazing things with all these things. So this is now 2018. You can see that, you know, Sun, obviously it's 0 Capricorn, but Saturn's only 10 degrees away. But then we've got Pluto in, well, we had Pluto before, but we've also got the South Node there. But we can see that Jupiter's slowly, the year after, will be going into Capricorn. But look at this, Mars and Neptune. I mean, there's 10 degrees of separation, but we know that prior to that they were in conjunct. So that there's this flavour between these two in a lot of these ingress charts, okay? And this is where I wanted to point out is that in 2018, Mars was in parallel to all the, so that it was going in southern declination as parallel Saturn and Pluto, and also going through Acrab and Antares. Now, you can see going through here, that's a Saturn Pluto, but you can see out down in August, it was actually parallel and sort of stationed on Antares. So this would have been, I believe that the COVID coronavirus was actually around a lot sooner than what we've been told, and it might have been already taking hold in certain places already at this time. And also you can see here, this is a huge cluster here. So, I mean, I can't obviously prove this, but I believe that this would have been an important time for the actual, you know, the start of it, or the underlying whatever happened in that lab may have been already early happening around here. So when we put the map up on that year, that's 2018. This is going through Europe now, Eastern Europe, okay, just to highlight, and the Pacific. Okay, so then when I saw the 2019, I'm thinking, this is what I said in my video, this looks a lot more like 1664, whether through the bubonic plague. And I said in the video we might have some sort of plague epidemic, okay? And obviously that's exactly what happened. And you can see again, Mars has an aspect to Neptune here. They're trine, okay, separating, but still would have been trine. So there's an element of that in the ingress chart. So when I put it on the graphic ephemeris declination, this is 2019. This is when we then eventually found out that about COVID. Can you see how all the planets, because they're on southern declination, there's this clustering. We also had eclipses then, okay, and full moons. These are full moons here. Eclipses are that looks like a conjunction. And this little one that looks like an opposition, that's a full moon. So that is a lunar eclipse. So you can see they're all clustered together in July, okay? Yeah. And then when we found out about COVID, pretty much in December, this is like the official thing in China, it was when they were all clustered again, and there was a solar eclipse at that point, okay, all in the southern declination. And when I put that on the map, it was just like, you can't make this up. This is the Capricorn ingress for 2019, okay? And when we put it, and I did mention this in the video, when I put that on the chart, you can see it going right through China, okay? But when I actually do a zoom, it actually highlights Wuhan too. So you can do this yourself. You can check it. I haven't made it up. It's actually there. This is why I love using these charts. When you see me put them up on Twitter, I say to you, look at these places that are highlighted, the cities, the countries, okay? Because this is how we do our forecasting, okay? There's something that might happen in that area. Not always, but there's a probability that it might. So now let's look at today's ingress, okay? We've got, you can see it here. I've got, oh no, this is not today's. It's 2020. I'm still behind. Okay, so I had a look. So now we've got, because we've got Jupiter and Saturn, this is last year, okay, when they were conjunct for the solstice, okay. So Aquarius is known as one of the coldest signs. When you look at your astrometeorology books, it's the coldest sign, okay. So Saturn is also the coldest planet. So you've got the coldest planet in the coldest sign. So you're expecting a lot of cold weather and extreme cold weather as well. And you can see how they're all in southern declination here. All right. So I put some quotes in here so you help, some notes, sorry. You can see that early in 2020, when I suppose in Australia, we started in January, we started hearing about COVID, and it was coming on the ships, the cruise ships, they'd have to stop and they're full of people with the coronavirus. So that's when we started getting people bringing it into Australia. Okay, and this is when Mars was parallel to Acrab. So Acrab is A. Okay, and also this clustering of planets in the southern declination. And then Mars stationed at a certain level and then went back again through the south node, which is not a good thing. South node is like things that we have to get rid of. It's a harder, it's like a Saturn really. And then you can see when it goes parallel to Acrab, and its station, and Saturn was there as well. So Saturn and Mars were parallel Acrab in April. Okay, this is when we started going to massive lockdowns in Australia and the sort of the world as well. But you can see that Saturn stationed at that point for a long time. It's like, well, I live in Melbourne, and Melbourne's has been the longest lockdown city in the whole world, So it's almost like this chart's just for me and everyone else that lives here. So there was also a lunar eclipse, okay, in between all this. So you can see how, Scorpio gets a bad rap. And I think it's because these fixed stars, have a sort of a difficult energy about them that have been known from observation. And there's a part of the zodiac called the Via Combusta, the combust way, or the burning way too, they call it, that sort of runs from parts of the end of Libra into most of Scorpio. And I believe it's because there's all these really difficult fixed stars. So, and they're in southern declination. So that's for research. You know, I love doing this sort of thing. Can you see how the moon, every time the moon's coming down, it's going lower and lower because the moon's actually going out of bounds now. You can see that it's gone out of bounds here. That's the sun line, okay? So that's at 23.5, and you can see that the moon's lower. So it's actually starting to go out of bounds. Now, this is when we heard about the Delta variant. This is just this year. This is still this year. You can see that we had the lunar eclipse right on that, and all in southern declination. And also you can see that Jupiter, these two lines here, Jupiter and Saturn, are getting closer and closer by declination, and they'll be crossing Acrab at the beginning of 2000 and next year. Okay, so let's have a look at this. This one's going through sort of Eastern Europe. Okay, you know, like just remember that Italy, especially Italy, was highly impacted by coronavirus. A lot of people died. I mean, it's a little in orb here. We've got the South Node going through Italy. Okay, so all this part of Europe. So 2001, which is now, today, looking at this, the first thing I sort of want to point out is that Mars is applying to a square to Neptune. And remember, when we've had COVID, the nodes were in mutable signs and always were having an aspect to Neptune, which is known to have to do with diseases, especially in Pisces, because Pisces is the 12th house, and it's to do with hospitals. Okay, so and Neptune is also involved with medicines, drugs, pharmaceuticals, etc. And Mars is, especially in Sagittarius, as a fire sign, is often involved with inflammation and fevers and so forth. So bringing them together, Epitom calls it the infection and epidemic combination. So you can see how that works. Okay, so that's that part. And you can see that at the moment, like today, Mars is in the midpoint of Acrab and Antares. So it's like full on in the middle by aspect, and not just by parallel, by declination. We'll probably have more news, obviously about other things, the new variant that has come out, and probably more. I'll show you why I say that. This is the past year, and we're here, okay, at the moment. And you can see that all this year we've had the Saturn-Pluto parallel, okay, and we can see that now Jupiter is actually moving more north, up, going up to the equator, so it's moving away from the lower southern hemisphere, and so this is the area. Like if we compare, when people say, when's this whole COVID going to disappear, coronavirus and the pandemic, it's probably when these planets move out of southern declination. Sorry, I have to drink something. Anyway, when we found out about the new variant, Omicron, we had this eclipse similar to the previous year, because that's where they've been. But also we've got Mars. Mars crossed was parallel now to Acrab. Okay, so that's the fixed star that is in focus again. So when we go to the next slide, which is for today, you can see that now the sun, the solstice, is going through China. Okay, so this is like a repeat pattern here, going through, but not on the MC, it's on the IC, which is the 4th house, which is for the people and the country. And we've got, because I'm Australian, I always obviously look, because Melbourne's been in the thick of things on many levels, and we can see that the Venus-Pluto conjunction is going through the IC, right through Melbourne and part of Eastern Australia, and also Uranus is going on the descendant. So we've got something continues for us, unfortunately, in Australia because of this energy here, right? So this focus on China again might be, I'll show you because I've got a slide. The next one is pretty important. Okay, so, went the wrong way. Okay, so this is next year, right? What's happening, just by purely looking at this chart, is that the south node, the nodes are going to be parallel ACRAB and moving on. But then we've got Mars, because it then goes direct again, stations a bit and then goes direct, and it will hit Saturn, not Saturn, Pluto, parallel Pluto, and then towards, looks like even near the equinox, we're going to have Mars parallel ACRAB again. And I'm thinking maybe there's news of another variant. So keep this in mind, okay? Because every time Mars has crossed that ACRAB, we get news of some new variant. So, and the other thing that sort of is compelling when I look at it is this lunar eclipse, because it's going to be parallel ACRAB, okay? And I'll show you what the eclipse looks like. See how we've got, you can have a look with declination. You can see that it's the sun and moon are, well, the sun's plus 19 and the moon's negative, okay, 19. And we know that ACRAB's at 19 south. So the moon is parallel to the star, okay? But look at this, it's going to be square Saturn, okay? Look at that, that's a classic T-square formation or midpoint structure that you would write that Saturn equals the sun and the moon. But it's also trine, and look at the pattern again, we've got Mars-Neptune in this pattern. Okay, so this to me signals another, you know, like to me, this is not the pandemic's not completing. It's a continuation of something. So I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about it. And when I put the chart on the map, the world map again, we can see this eclipse actually goes through China again on the MC. Okay, it is going through, ascending through London and the sort of Paris and Europe there, but also through Africa. It will also rise through parts of the States here. The Mars-Neptune will be on the IC going through San Francisco, Los Angeles, and all that coast, the west coast of the USA. But the interesting thing is the actual eclipse will be on the IC going through New York, Washington. It's a bit wide, but it's there because Uranus is there as well. And on the opposite side, it will be China. So there's this US-China thing being highlighted again with this eclipse. It's on the 16th of May. Australia, Melbourne, unfortunately, the Mars-Neptune is on the descendant. So this to me suggests that there's another outbreak of something, another variant, okay? I don't think we're going to be clear until later on, but this eclipse might also reveal something, because it goes through Wuhan again, okay? So do we find out something about the actual, you know, was it in the lab? Do we get the real story? So it'll be interesting to see what eventuates. Thank you for listening. I thought it was a bit long, but there was a lot for me to get through. If you don't know, follow me on Twitter. That's my Twitter handle, AstroGann33. And thank you for watching me on YouTube. And my website is Astrology for Gann Traders. And I'll put a link to the other video if you want to look at it, where I compared the Bubonic Plague with what was coming up. And, well, you know, that's what part of astrology. We need to look back. And there are repeats, history repeats. Sometimes it rhymes, people say, when it's not exactly the same. But you can see how when you put your solar maps on the world map, like the solar maps, that countries are highlighted and that there's a theme that continues. So anyway, thanks for listening. Oh, make sure you subscribe and push that notification button for me. I'm trying to build up my subscribers because I let it go for a long time. But anyway, thanks for listening.